Well, it's been 2 days since I glued this up, and I'm gonna pull the clamps off and see what happened. Now, in one of the earlier videos, we were talking about the things that we had to think about in the future and what to look out for, and I made yet another error when I was doing this. So one of the things that I neglected to do was put that piece of veneer inside the cavity to plug up that hole when we route. So that's just, another one of those things that I forgot about because I'm trying to film and do all this stuff and lost my train of thought. So, not the end of the world. What I'll do is I'll just punch through, and then when I get to that area with the router where the hole is, I will just not push the router up against it, and I'll just go back in with a file or a block and some sandpaper and just sand that flush. It'll be really easy to do. But again, it's just one of those things to think about that that you should do that I didn't do, and I told you should do it. So here we go. Looks like I got solid glue joint all the way around, so I'm pretty happy with that. So the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to probably go over to the bandsaw and just trim off this stuff as close as I can get it without hitting the body. So then when I run the router around this, I won't have a lot of material to take off. I won't work the router bit too hard, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna do that, and I'll bring you back. Probably the other thing that I'll do at the same time is I'll just trim out this in the neck pocket here, and I'll have to be careful of that hole when I'm running it around too, so I'll probably miss that anyway and sand it. But yeah, looking pretty good. It's gonna be cool. Bring you right back. So I got the smaller spindle on. Really have to keep this moving because it's easy to dig in here. The other part that you have to be careful with is when you get to here, is to not push this way and put a big divot into here. Now, when they were sanding this from the factory, there's already one there from when it looks like they did it. So I'm gonna have a little bit of smoothing to do there, but it is what it is. So let's roll. And I'm using very, very light pressure. The other thing you might have noticed on the other, when I was doing the belt part and this part, is I'm moving the body before I engage it with the spindle. You don't want to put that on there and then move it, because that's what causes your divots. So I'm gently moving into the workpiece into the spindle as it's going. And same thing when I come off, I'm moving it and then pulling it away. So that minimizes any little bumps and stuff you might get in there. Also, the direction you go makes a big difference. I'm going this way, which is against the spin of the spindle, so it's digging in more. If I go with it, it doesn't sand as much, but you're less likely to put divots in it. So I go both ways. When I'm doing this, depending on how accurate I need to be and how much material I got to remove. continuing on past where I need it to help blend that in as well. Alright, I got it. It's about as close as I need to get it for right now, but it's way better. A million times better than it was from the factory. And hey, let's check this out. Starting to look like a little guitar. Pretty cool. All right, so the next step is I'm going to punch through the back here, make my hot dog route, and then I'll probably find my route for my bridge pickup. It's right there. The cool thing is I don't know if you can hear the difference there. So on we go. So now I'm ready to route for the hot dog plate. If you remember, I had marked a spot that was 55 millimeters in from the edge here, put us right in the center of where the hot dog route was in the front. And I just drilled through with a 1/2 inch router bit, or a drill bit, which is the same diameter of my router bit. So that'll just go right through. That's that same bit I was using to do the top. The bearing will follow the inside of the cavity and trim the route that's already under there. Again, I got to be careful of this hole because, like I said in a previous video, I forgot to put the veneer in there to cover it up so I can just go right past it. So I'll just have to be super careful right there. And then there's another little one somewhere around in here. I'm not exactly sure where that is, for the wires that come from the bridge pickup into the cavity. So I have to be a little bit careful there. But once I kind of get most of this hogged out, I'll be able to look in there and see where that is. So I'm not going to just blindly go around. So cross your fingers. Let's see what happens. Worst case scenario is if I dip in a little bit, there's the plate that's going to be on here is going to be recessed anyway, and there'll be a lip there. So hopefully I won't have to take advantage of that. So I've already set my depth of my router, so I'm just going to plunge it in to where I want, and this is a little shaky because this hole is just barely bigger than the bit. So if you're up against it and start it, it's going to want to have a tendency to grab. So, the smart thing to do would be to start it up here and then lower it in, and I have a stop on here so I know how far down I'm going to go. So I'm going to do it that way. Alright, so there's my first pass. I just went right down the middle as best I could. You can't see it, so I found my ends, and so now I'm able to look in there and see that other hole that I was worried about a little bit. So I'll just take a pencil and I'm just going to mark it right there. And I made a mark here for this one. So now I can kind of go through a little bit quicker and not have to worry about running into that too much. I still got to be careful there, but anywho, let's keep going. All right, pretty good. So I've got a little bit of a nub there for that hole, and then a little bit of a nub there. I shaved it down. I'm pretty close. So I could go back and put that veneer in and then do that plan like I did earlier, or like I was talking about earlier. I probably won't do that. This is soft enough. I'll be able to just put a block in there and sand that flush pretty easily. Yeah, happy with that. Clean up the fuzzies here. Get a better idea what it looks like. Yeah, there you go. So then from there, I'll be able to lay out my controls and make sure that I have the pot centered directly in the middle of that. And yeah, so I'm just gonna, off camera, I'm just gonna clean that up. You don't need to watch me sand a little route there. So pretty cool. The next step is I need to reestablish the route for the bridge pickup. So I've done like I did on the back, where I've drilled a hole through where the existing route is, and I will go down with that same bearing bit and it will follow the route that's inside there, and I'll be good to go. I think there's probably a couple spots that I have to be careful of. One is there's a hole for the wiring to connect the neck pickup to the bridge pickup, so there's a little bit of a probably a dip there, and then of course that one hole that we were talking about that came from the wiring hole from the bridge pickup into the cavity. So again, I'm going to kind of hog out this a little bit and then look in there and see where those are, and then if I can find them, just make a mark on the outside and then continue on. So same procedure as the back, just a little bit different route. Hole is somewhere over here. That one is right in there. Okay, cool. Since this is such an odd shape, I don't know where anything is, so okay, got a better idea here. Hit it with the air hose here. That turned out good. So I've got quite a bit of squeeze out in this cavity, a lot more than I would like. I don't know if you can see the big drip down in there. Couple here. So that's actually not too hard to fix. Basically what I'm going to do is I will just clean up the edge right up here, right up next to the top, here and here, and then I'm just gonna, I'll put a different bit in that the bearing's in the top and the cutter's on the bottom, and I can then run that around and it'll clean that right out. So not too worried about that. I would rather have good adhesion and then come back and mess with that than anything else. Another idea that I didn't think of until now is I could have always just take some paste wax and I could have waxed off this cavity, and then that glue would have dripped down in there and then it would have just popped right off. But normally, like I said, I don't normally put tops on stuff that's pre-routed. The bodies get built and then they get routed from there. So a couple little steps that I don't normally think about. But yeah, it's starting to look like a guitar. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out for where the P90 is, and then I'll put my P90 template on there and I can route for that. And that bit is the same bit that I'm going to use with the bearing on the top. So after I route that, then I can use that same bit to clean this up a little bit. And yeah, it's starting to look like something. It's pretty cool. Alright, so I'm getting ready to route the P90. I got my P90 template on here. Making templates is actually pretty easy depending on what pickup or what thing you're doing, but this is just a down and dirty quick template where I've got 2 pieces of wood in the middle here. So if I can tilt that up, you can see that are the exact width I need. So I cut this piece the width I need and then just cut it in half, and then you just sandwich it between 2 other pieces of, this is MDF with a straight edge on it, and then you just place it at the appropriate distance you need and you have an exact square. No need to take a solid piece and cut it out and then try to cut a square, make it all even. If you do it like this and you just super glue it together, you can make one of these in 15 minutes. And if it gets destroyed or messed up, you can make another one really easy. I've done tons of these. So have a center line marked in it. I'm not trying to radius the corners to the P90 because of the router bit that I'm using has the radius of the P90 in it. So if you leave this square, you can do various radiuses if you want. So I need to go down 1 inch. I have that center line marked in my body. I have the center line marked up with this. This is butted right up against the fretboard. I'm trying to get it as far away from that bridge pickup as I can. Since it's such a mini guitar, I don't know what the sound difference is going to be, but we'll see. And normally what I would do is I would go over to the drill press and then maybe just drill down a bunch of times and hog out some of this material so it's not so much work on my router bit. But I didn't do that this time, and I got a brand new bit in there. I'm just going to plunge down and just hog out little bits at a time, and then see what happens. So I have my router set at 1 inch for the depth, and we'll see what happens. I forgot the reason I didn't hog it out is there's that route that's already under there from the previous pickup. So there's not a lot of material here. There is in some spots, but not in most. So I just remembered that when I punched through. So yeah, life's gonna be easier than I thought. There it is, one P90 route. I will confirm that the pickup fits down in there before I pull this out, and I'll just probably stick the cover down in there, and then I'll pull it off and show you what it looks like. Okay, yeah, so here it is. Turned out good. And you can see where I kind of went through. What I ended up doing is I just ended up just cleaning up these edges and made them look even on either side. So, you know, it still looks good. But like I was saying, the neck is the critical points are the sides and the bottom having it have good contact there. So we're good to go. The wiring channel is already routed from the previous pickup. That wiring channel is routed going into there. So the next thing I'm probably going to do is, well, here's what I have left to do. I have to locate the bridge, or relocate the bridge. I got to drill the string through holes and the countersinks for the grommets on the back. I need to mark and drill for my controls. I may go with a Les Paul style 3-way switch instead of the blade switch for that. I like those a little bit better. and it'll give you a little more room for your fingers. Then I still need to, I'm going to do the belly cut, and for now I'm just going to round over these edges. I'm not going to do any fancy bevels or anything like that. I think I'll just stick with that. And then I need to round over the back corners or edges, and I think the body will be done. So pretty exciting. Not too much left to do. Then I'll turn my attention over to the neck. I've got a few ideas for that, so I'll tell you about that in a separate video.